Hey everyone, off the mic Sports Network here. A off the top rope here for y'all. Friday night SmackDown, decent show. Advanced a lot of things towards Elimination Chamber. That's not really what I want to talk about here. So we need to talk about women's wrestling here for a second. Because one of the key matches on this show for SmackDown was Tiffany Stratton defending the women's championship against Nia Jax. It was a great match with a weird finish, leads to Tiffany Stratton facing Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. And you guys know better than anybody, I've been highly critical of one Mercedes Mone over in AEW. She's going to have a title defense at Grand Slam Australia against Harley Cameron. And you can go watch the video of why I think Harley Cameron should win that match. I don't think she will, but I was thinking about this as I saw this whole thing transpire in the second hour of going into the third hour of SmackDown, where Tiffany Stratton, somebody who has been in wrestling for less than 5 years, not a lot of experience, literally has been with the company since about 2021, I think. And here she is in a high-profile match. She's the champion. She's been on the main roster for just over a year. She debuted effectively as a main roster competitor around the Royal Rumble last year. And here she is. She's going to be the champion, and she's going up against the standard of the women's division in Charlotte Flair. Somebody that about 10 years ago was compared side by side with Sasha Banks, the now current Mercedes Mone. And I was having a conversation with a bunch of people on the internet. So a lot of them were AEW marks saying they were talking about, Naomi and, Bianca Belair are going to be in the Elimination Chamber despite being the tag team champions. And if you remember a couple years ago, Sasha Mercedes walked out with Naomi famously because they were going to be jobbed out to the champions at that point, despite being the women's tag team champions. And we obviously know that Naomi has come back. She's been featured prominently in storylines. Meanwhile, Mercedes has gone on her own belt collector gimmick. And you know what? She's a great wrestler. I've said this, and she's got stuff with I forgot what the Star Wars series, like, you guys can correct me in the comments, but she's done a lot of acting and she's become somewhat mainstream. But she has bet on herself. She signed a massive contract with AEW. But and I've said this a lot, and people think that I'm a hater, but I think a lot of this is just disappointment because the perception that I had what was Sasha Banks, and that I thought that, her star power, and she was going to get a chance to shine in a different environment as the big fish in, a different pond. And what we've seen in a year is WWE pretty much made this woman. Let's call it what it is. Because think about this for a second. Think about this. She left WWE, and look what has happened since 2022. Rhea Ripley is the biggest star probably in all of women's professional wrestling. You could argue she's top 5 in terms of and some people, for weird reasons I don't understand, have something out against Rhea because of her character or whatever. Look, that woman is just so freaking cool, okay? And then you've got Tiffany Stratton, who is the perfect combination of athleticism and beauty, which is just everything that they have been looking for since Trish Stratus. And obviously you got Charlotte Flair, some people, but listen, and then you've got some of the standard bearers like Bayley, Naomi, Becky Lynch is in and out of the company. She's being a mom now. You've seen that since Sasha left. And by the way, she went to AEW and literally got paid by a mark in Tony Khan to literally do the same gimmick that WWE helped her get over 10 years ago. So all these people trying to tell me, oh, Sasha bet on herself and won. What did she win exactly? What did she win? A huge contract? She's got 4 titles on her and nobody gives a shit. Everybody wants Harley Cameron to beat her because they're tired of this crap. It's the same conversation that we've had with Chris Jericho. It's sometimes, the grass isn't always greener on the other end. And we've seen with Chris Jericho is a perfect example. Early on in AEW, when he went there with like, the Le Champion days, like, post like, list and all that stuff. And after he had the cool little thing with Kenny Omega in Japan. But in the last 4 years, Chris Jericho's gotten repetitive, stupid, and annoying. Mercedes managed to do that in like a quarter of the time because literally she had the annoying CEO chant in her music. CEO, also boss. Again, this is the same gimmick. And again, she's getting creative control. So she owns some level of accountability in this. So I'm watching SmackDown and I'm seeing Tiffany Stratton getting ready to face Charlotte in one of the top matches at WrestleMania. Tiffany Stratton has been in this business for like a quarter or like not even half, like more than that. Like she's been in the business for like 3-4 years. Sasha's been doing this for over a decade. So it's just sometimes like this perception that, oh, she's got a championship. Oh, she's got a bunch of titles. She can wrestle a bunch of banger matches. It doesn't mean jack shit when your company is sinking since you signed there. The women's division has not advanced at all. And which is why I think they need to give Harley Cameron this win in Australia, because at least that would put a shot in the arm and like, at least develop a star, which was the whole goal of Sasha Mercedes going there in the first place. But look at what where WWE has gone with their women's division. Again, women's wrestling is not perfect, but look at WWE's women's division compared to AEW's women's division since this transaction, this change of the guard really happened. And we all thought that, AEW was going to be better. Sasha has had some of the worst I keep calling her Sasha because let's get real. I still think of her that way because that's, like I said, this character is exactly what Sasha Banks was in WWE. So again, the reason why I talk a lot about this on my channel is obviously there's a lot of interest because I get a lot of reaction back in this. But the other part of this is I'm as disappointed as a lot of people in the fan base because I thought so much more highly of Sasha Banks, Mercedes Varnado, Mercedes Mone, that this was actually going to work a lot better. Then again, it's Tony Khan, it's AEW, so it's there's like literally no accountability over there in that place. And like Sasha gets creative control. She's got this huge contract. She's wrestling decent matches, but again, that's not going to get you anywhere. Tiffany Stratton got Tiffy time and all this stuff over. She's been on the main roster for a year and she's already the women's champion. She's already accomplished a lot of what Sasha Banks couldn't do. She's going to be in a high profile match against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. She's the women's champion already. She won Money in the Bank. And you could say some of this is Vince McMahon not getting Sasha Banks, but dare I say it? Did Vince McMahon actually see something before we all did? Because clearly, based off what we have seen transpire in the last year since Mercedes Mone showed up there, is that Mercedes thinks way higher of herself and she thinks she's a star when in reality, we all should have seen this years ago. She's great. One of the big reasons why the women's division is there, but there's a reason why she was never pegged above Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch, okay? Because if she were something, then this would have worked by now. But her promos are not great. The star level, and you would think somebody who's been in acting would be more of a natural, but it has not worked. The music is cringe. The reactions she has been getting have diminished significantly, and it's gotten to a point where, yeah, it's great that you got a bunch of titles, but who cares? None of this matters if you're not getting reactions and nobody cares. And you juxtapose that and you compare it side by side with what is going on with somebody like a Tiffany Stratton who's barely been in the business and is already as insanely over as she is with limited experience and still way more room to grow, way younger, mid-20s. You see why WWE made the decision to pass on her. They didn't want to pay her. They didn't think she was worth it. And despite what all you Sasha or Mercedes stans will think, they made the right decision. And it's Triple H ultimately who made this decision when there was an option to bring her back in late 2023, early 2024. There was an option. And Triple H knew more than anybody because he was running NXT when, the women's revolution was starting to make its heyday. And he made the decision to pass on her because he didn't want to pay the money and he believed in his women's division. And you see what's going on. Yes, there are parts of this division that drive me insane. But one thing that you cannot argue when it comes to, the development is like WWE has a system that, you don't need to shell out like inordinate sums of money for stars who think more highly of themselves, and more power to Mercedes for going to get paid. But look who she got paid by. She got paid by a mark. She got paid by a mark. Let's call it what it is. That's what Tony Khan is. So I just look at this situation and I just like I said, I'm watching SmackDown and you're seeing just the growth and just the ability of Tiffany Stratton. Yeah, there was some clunky moments in the match itself and in the post-match angle, but it's really easy to see. And for anybody who's just trying to get defensive with me about saying, yeah, you're wrong about Mercedes, why do you have to bag on her? It's like, guys, I had so much more. And I think the reason why I've really turned the corner on this is I had such high expectations for this to work. And, some of this is my fault for not, really seeing the light in terms of how bad creative decision making was in AEW. But also, I think you've got to, go to the person who bet on themselves, wanted all of this power, wanted all of this money, and it's not working. It's not working. You look here's another part of this. She's not even the most over woman in her own company. Who was a WWE outcast. Tony Storm is. Tony Storm, for all of the conversations that we have about Mercedes, Tony Storm is everything that we thought Mercedes was going to be. Because that woman, when in AEW, she was already kind of screwed over initially because of the whole Thunder Rosa situation. She's an interim champion, loses it to Jamie Hayter. She's recreated herself actually 3 times. Because she went into the Outcasts with Saraya, then she went into Timeless Tony Storm, had the amazing arc and put over Mariah May. Then she went back to her rocker gimmick, only to reveal that she was acting as Tony Storm and goes back to Timeless Tony Storm. Again, what did I say during this video? Mercedes has not evolved one bit at all. She is literally the same character that she got over in WWE. She's the boss. It's just under a different moniker, CEO. So Tony Storm is so over because of just how she's been able to adapt and, make a character work. So if anybody, should be the flag bearer and the standard bearer and be thought of, because I think there's just this perception that because she gets all this money, that she's this goddess in wrestling. And, we all expected things to change. But if anything, the piece that has been keeping this women's division together in AEW, it's Tony Storm. It's Tony Storm. That's the person that I think WWE regrets letting go. Because for God's sake, that woman has been fucking incredible. And she may be the women's champion by the time that this gets up on my YouTube channel. Because I think the show is going to be recording in Australia at 2:30 Pacific time. I don't even know what time that is in Australia, but Australia is like a million hours ahead of us. So, and I don't understand how you can't get it on the channel. But anyway, that's my state of the women's division. I just think that there's just so many pieces within AEW and in WWE that just show you Mercedes just thinks she's better than she actually is. It's the reality of the situation. And I think WWE fundamentally made the right decision in moving off of her. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.